Okay, so we are, okay, welcome everyone. We are sponsored by our friends at I Like Crochet. It's a digital magazine. It publishes, oh gosh, I think how often does it publish, Dana? 4 or 6 times a year?
Six. Yeah.
Six. Okay, 6 times a year. Normally it is $59, but if you're joining us today, you're not yet a member of this wonderful publication. We have prepared a special introductory offer for you today. So there's a code here at the bottom. We'll put it in the chat as well for you to claim this deal. It's just $5. You get a 1-year subscription. It's a digital magazine. There's no ads, which is really nice. All the patterns have been tech edited, which means, if you're halfway through a pattern, sometimes they have a mistake. These do not, because we've had someone make them and work them up and make sure that the patterns are flawless. So it's a great deal. You can gift it as well if you're a subscriber already and you love it and want to share it with a fellow crocheter. You can gift someone this digital magazine subscription. So thank you to our friends at I Like Crochet. We also have a knitting magazine, a sewing magazine, and a quilting magazine as well, if you are a fan of any of those crafts as well. So let's see, some housekeeping items. Dana is our teacher today. She's worked at Prime Publishing for, gosh, I don't know, 12 years?
11.
11, I was close. She is one of our editors at Fave Crafts. Fave Crafts is one of our main free crafting websites. We have an email newsletter that you can sign up. It publishes daily, I think actually twice a day. So you can sign up to get free crafting inspiration sent right to your inbox. So we will send a link to the Fave Crafts newsletter sign up as well. So sign up for that if you haven't already. We also have a crochet website, knitting website, et cetera, et cetera. So Dana has a blog as well, so I can post that in the chat too. She has been making beautiful crochet baby blankets for some of her friends. I am the lucky recipient of one of them. So thank you, Dana. But she has recently started teaching some classes for us, and it's been wonderful. So you guys are in for a treat. She is going to go over some of her favorite stitches today for you. And I think that is it. Oh, this is just one of our next classes, which we can talk about later. But I am going to go ahead and stop the screen share, and then Dana will take over.
Hey. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're going to learn 3 beautiful crochet stitches today. I'm going to drop the pattern link in the chat, and you'll get that in the recap email as well tomorrow. We will, don't feel like you have to follow along with the pattern because we're just going to do a little swatch today, but that's the pattern that the stitches are from. Let's see, Gail's asking, how do you take advantage of the $5 deal for I Like Crochet? I'll drop that link in the chat for you, and then we'll jump in. So, right, so here is a swatch showing the 3 stitches we're going to learn today. So the one in the middle is a little tricky to see. At the bottom here, we've got the bar stitch, which is just these beautiful post stitches, give you that raised texture here. In the middle is the boblet stitch. I'm going to try to angle this in a way where you can really see those lifted, the little bumps coming off of the swatch. I'm going to use a lighter color yarn to teach today, so hopefully it'll show up more. It's a really cute, subtle stitch I think for baby blankets, is one of the cutest ones. And then this top stitch is the honeycomb stitch, where you get these overlapping loops, and they are achieved through spike stitches and working into them in a certain way to get that look. So go ahead, grab your yarn. I'm just going to use this skein of green baby yarn from Hobby Lobby, and I'm using a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. There we go. To get us started, if you have worsted weight yarn and like an I or an H crochet hook, 5 millimeter or 5.5 millimeter, that's fine too. To get started, we're going to chain 13 for our swatches today. So go ahead, make your slip knot. And we're going to chain 13. So you have your small little starting chain. And for the first row, we're just single crocheting across. I like to work into the back bump of the chain because then, and I'll show you when it's done, you have a really nice edge on the bottom, which is really easy for working borders if you're working up a blanket or any other project that needs a border. So go ahead and turn your work towards you. And in that first bump, which is right here, that's where you'll place your first single crochet. You'll just insert, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through. Again, keep working in the back bumps. I am assuming that folks at least know some of the basics, like how to do a slip knot and how to do the chain before we get started, and even single crochet. These stitches are a little more like intermediate, especially the honeycomb stitch. That one's the most advanced of the 3 stitches, but they are all pretty easy to memorize, which is why I love them, and they're so pretty. But yeah, in the interest of time, I'm assuming that folks know at least chain, working our way along. More bumps left. And that last bump by the knot sometimes looks a little funky or is a little tricky, but it's right there.
Dana, can you remind everyone what let's see, what stitch you're doing and what size hook you're using?
Yes, so okay. We're going to learn 3 stitches today. We're learning the bar stitch, the boblet stitch, and the honeycomb stitch. And for this swatch that I'm working up, it's a DK weight yarn, so weight 3 light. And I am using a 4.5 millimeter number 7 crochet hook.
Thank you.
And we're just starting this first little foundation row here is just single crochet. So you should have 12 single crochet stitches. And then just to show the bottom here, working into the back bump, you get what almost looks like the top of your stitches with the nice V. So it makes it so easy to work into when you're doing a border because it looks so similar to the top of your work. All right, and actually we're going to do one more row of single crochet. We're going to have a nice easy start here today. So just chain 1 and turn your work. And do one more row of single crochet, and then we are going to dive into the bar stitch. A special class today because these are the stitches I used in the blanket that I made for Jenny. So if you visit that pattern link on my blog, or even just, you know, the photo that was promoting the class was a photo of the blanket I made Jenny. She just had a baby earlier this year. Moving right along. Your last stitch of the row. Chain 1 and turn. So we just have a simple 2 rows of single crochet to get us started. Now to complete the bar stitch, if you're new to post stitches, this is a really nice introduction to post stitches because you're just making vertical bars with them. And I'll show you what I mean. So for this stitch repeat, we're going to go ahead. We start with a single crochet in the first stitch. And then we begin our post stitches. So in order to complete this stitch, we're going to do a front post double crochet 2 rows down. So into the first row that we worked, around that second single crochet. So right here, let's hold this right up to the camera. Right here is your like first single crochet and the turning chain from back there. We are working into this second stitch. And to do that front post double crochet, just yarn over and insert your hook around that stitch. So I'll show again, you're bringing that stitch forward. When you're working any front post stitches, you're bringing the stitch toward the front, towards you. So you'll go around that way, pushing that stitch toward you. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. There is your first textural bar stitch. All right. Now, when you work into the next stitch, you want to make sure you skip the stitch where we did the post. So this is the top of the stitch that we skipped right here. We don't want to accidentally increase, so we're skipping that because we worked around a post instead. And we're just single crocheting into the next 2 stitches. That nice textural bar stitch. Now we're going to do another one, another front post double crochet. So we're skipping 2 single crochets. So here's that post stitch. Here's the next single crochet. Here's the next single crochet. And we're working now into this one. So we worked the 2 single crochets up there, and now we're doing the bar stitch in this one. Yarn over. Bring that little single crochet forward towards you. Pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. There we go. And top of that stitch where we just worked. So to make sure you don't accidentally increase, there's a lot of like moving it towards you, moving it back, moving it towards you. But it's a good way to not accidentally increase stitches. Just check as you go. So you don't have to pull back later and, you know, redo a row or something. Okay, so 2 regular single crochets. Grab some white yarn. All right, and then again, they're hard to see. So often you work front post double crochets around double crochet stitches, and they're easier to isolate because it's a taller stitch. But for this first row of the bar stitch, it's kind of tricky sometimes to find the stitches you're looking for. So here's that stitch we worked into. Here's the next single crochet. Here's the next one. All right, now in this third one is where we're working another bar stitch. Pull it forward towards you, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Skip the top of that stitch where we'd worked a bar stitch. Single crochet in the next 2. And then at the end of the row, we're going to do a bar stitch. We're ending the row with a single crochet. There's our little foundation of bar stitches. There we go. If I catch the shadow right, you can see some of that texture popping out, which is so fun. And then from here on out, it's going to be easier to work the bar stitches. We don't have to isolate single crochets, and I'll show you what we mean. in the second row from what we're about to do. So all we do now, chain one and single crochet across. So two of the stitches we're learning today, every other row you just single crochet across. So even, this stitch is only a 2-row repeat. The boblet stitch is a 4-row repeat, and so is the honeycomb stitch. But in the boblet stitch, 2 of your 4 rows are just single crochet across. So it's pretty easy. Sometimes I think a 4-row repeat can sound intimidating, but when 2 of the rows are just single crocheting across, or if it's a 2-row repeat, but one of the rows is just single crocheting across, it's still quite easy to memorize and still, can be pretty mindless. All right, so you're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to be working our post stitches around the bars. So single crochet in the first stitch, and we are always in this pattern blanking the pattern with single crochets on either side. So the first stitch of the row is always going to be an ordinary single crochet, and the end of the row is always going to be an ordinary single crochet. Cheryl's asking, did we chain 1? We're always going to chain 1 at the end of each row. Chain 1 and turn. And then let's see, Lorraine's asking, can I see this again later? Yes, we're going to be sending the recording tomorrow, so you'll be able to watch it. All right, so we did our single crochet in the first stitch. Now we're going to do our front post double crochets around the posts that we did in the past. So they're easier to isolate than those single crochet stitches. And now the pattern goes quicker and I think it's more fun because it's easy. So yarn over and insert just beneath that post. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Just doing your double crochet stitches around posts. That's all it is. We're skipping the top of that stitch where we'd worked the post and single crocheting in the next 2. Another bar stitch, so yarn over, pull up that bar, pull up the post stitch, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. The ridges look a lot more pronounced now that we're working into those post stitches. Single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and bar stitch again. Front post double crochet into that next post. Oh, it's a good question. So Laura's asking, how should we tension the first part of the post, pull up so it doesn't get all squished together? Let me travel across to get to the next post. This stitch, so when you're working textural stitches only on the front of the fabric like this, it does have a tendency to curl. So a couple thoughts. What I do, because I'm trying to keep the consistency with the hook size, so I'm always pulling up the loop kind of right next to the stitch, yarning over, pulling through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So I'm holding the hook at kind of a diagonal to keep that tension really consistent. I don't think you're going to want to pull up all the way to the top of that. Don't pull up all the way to the height. Okay, I'm not going to say do or don't do anything actually, because there's a couple thoughts here. If you pull up all the way to the height of the working row, your stitches are just gonna have that elongated length there and be a little more like loosey-goosey. You can see the difference there compared to here. I'll hold it really close. So this is like really long and kind of loose now, whereas these are more consistent sized loops. Up high like that and you get these loose loops, your work isn't going to curl as much. So that's good. But if you like the consistency of how these loops look, then you don't want to pull the working yarn up to the height of the current row. So the stitch does curl if you keep that tension consistent. And a couple thoughts. So if you're making a whole blanket and you put a border on it, which is what I did in the pattern example, you will, like, the work isn't going to curl because the border is going to weigh it down. So when I had made the panel, the bar stitch panel, it curled a ton when I had made it, but then once I had attached to the other panels and worked up the borders, it flattened out. The other option is just steaming it to get it to lie flat. And then let's see, Joan is asking how many ridges should you have, 5 or 6? I have 4 for this. So if I'll go ahead and count it out. So you've got your starting here is just 1 single crochet, then your double crochet, 2 single crochets, double crochet, etc. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 4 bar stitches and 8 single crochets. All right, Jenny, I know you have to get going. Do you have time to do an intermission, or do you need
Yeah.
to skip?
If
Okay.
this works for you, we can definitely do a quick intermission.
Sounds great.
Let me see here. Let me do a slideshow. Oh, let me do share screen. Okay, everyone. So here, we just wanted to quickly go over some of our upcoming classes. This is choosing the best yarn for your project. And this will be taking place on June 26th, same time and place. And it is a free class. So if this time or date doesn't work for you, feel free to sign up still, even though you can't come in real time. Like we're doing today, we will send you a recording of the class 24 hours after. So this will probably be good, for both knitters and crocheters, because it'll just be talking about choosing yarn for any kind of project that you have going on. And then on July 9th, we have Learn to Crochet the Alpine Stitch in 3 colors. Dana, I believe this is one that you're teaching as well, correct?
That's right.
That is July 9th, same time, 11 a.m. Central Time. And then the third class, we do have a sewing class coming up. So this is a 3-dimensional fabric flower class. Again, it is free. July 23rd, 11 a.m. Central Time. So if you've always wanted to learn how to do some easy sewing projects, this might be a good opportunity. Sponsored by our friends at We Like Sewing, another one of our digital magazines. And yeah, like Dana said, I do have to duck out early. So Dana is going to be leading the show and taking it from here. So she's been doing a great job answering her own questions as we go. So continue to use the Q&A if you have any questions along the way. And we will be sending out a recording of this class 24 hours from today. So have fun, and hopefully I will see some of you guys at one of our upcoming classes.
All right. Thank you, Jenny, so much. Okay, so the next stitch, we're going to dive into the boblet stitch now. And what we're going to do, I could have told you to do this during the intermission, I suppose, but we're going to single crochet across. We're going to just work off the same swatch. And then depending on our timing for the honeycomb stitch, I have the first couple rows worked up if we need to. So go ahead and single crochet across. We still just need the 12 stitches. The boblet stitch, it could be any even number of stitches to start. But so we're just going to use our 12 that we already worked. And since just another housekeeping thing, since I'm a one-woman show now, if you guys could ask questions just in the chat, don't use the Q&A. It's easier for me to see while I teach. So thanks. All right, go ahead and after you work your single crochet row, chain 1. And we're going to start our boblets. So first stitch, just like with the bar stitch, the first and last stitch are always going to be single crochets. And that's just going to help kind of frame out the pattern. So the first stitch, single crochet in the first stitch, and then we're going to do our boblet in the next stitch. So you'll insert your hook and pull up a loop, just like you're starting an ordinary single crochet. This stitch on its own, it's called an extra extended single crochet. And so the way we achieve that, you've pulled up your loop, chain 2, got kind of this funky situation going on. You still just have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through. And I'm going to show that again because that's a little different. So and it's a little tricky to see in this lighting, I apologize, but you do have that dimension there from chaining 2 in the middle of your single crochet. So we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and I'll show that boblet again. Insert your hook and pull up a loop like you're starting an ordinary single crochet. Chain 2. And pull through, yarn over and pull through both. And now we're starting to see some of that boblet texture in our work. Crochet in the next stitch. And boblet in the next. So yarn over, chain 2. Yarn over and pull through both. So unlike the bar stitch where you're doing 2 single crochets in between each bar, every other stitch in the boblet is either a single crochet or a boblet. Yarn over, chain 2, yarn over and pull through 2. All right. And this is our last one of the row. You're going to have 2 stitches left at the end of the row after this last boblet. And that's by design so that we can offset them in the next row. So you get kind of this diamond bobbles effect, and it's very pretty and very subtle and sweet. So we're just going to do 2 ordinary single crochets in these last 2 stitches. I feel like the camera's not doing it justice, but hopefully as you guys are working up the stitch, you can see these sweet little bobbles forming on your own work. If you're still working that row, take your time. We're just single crocheting across. So chain 1 at the end of every row, just chain 1 and single crochet across. I'm going to do it kind of quickly so we can get to the offset boblet row. The nice thing about the bar stitch is you've got easy signals for, once you get the first couple rows going, it's easy to see, okay, I put my single crochets on top of single crochets. I put my post stitches on top of post stitches. It makes the pattern so easy to memorize. And then with the boblet stitch, once you get the first 4 or so rows going, so we just are completing row 3 of the pattern for the boblet stitch now. Chain 1 and 2. Once you get that going, you'll be able to see, oh, I don't want my bobbles right on top of each other. You want them offset. So it'll be easy to see what row you're on because you just know you got to offset them. So in order to do that here, this is row 4 of the pattern. You're going to single crochet, always single crochet in the first and last stitch. In this case, we're single crocheting in the second stitch because we want to offset the bobbles or boblets, I should say. All right, so we single crocheted in the first 2. Now we're going to do our extra extended single crochet. Insert the hook, yarn over, chain 2, yarn over, and there's your bobble. Single crochet in the next stitch. Extra extended single crochet / boblet in the next stitch. starting to see at this point. Angle this real nicely so that you can see the offset. There we go. The bobbles are offset now. And as you keep working them, you get that nice diamond-like design. All right, and now at the end of this row, because we worked the 2 single crochets at the start of the row, we're going to work an extra extended single crochet in the second to last stitch, and then single crochet in the last stitch. Be even more obvious if we single crochet across again, you get those nice bumps. So this is a really sweet option, especially if folks are a little bit newer to crochet. I know somebody who they only make single crochet baby blankets because they're easy to memorize, but this is a nice option. Like, oh, actually you could just take it up a little notch and do these little bobbles in between. And it's still very similar, but it gives it that extra little pretty texture. Okay, I've got 11:34 on my clock. So I'm gonna say finish up whatever current row you're doing, and then do 2 rows of single crochet so that we can get the foundation going for our honeycomb stitch. And I have a separate little swatch I'll start the honeycomb stitch on, but I will do 1 row of single crochet just to show again what the bobbles look like when they're offset so nicely. See here, there's some of that texture. Oh, good question. She's saying the bobbles tend to go to the back. Yeah, you can just kind of push them to the front. That should do it. If I guess if they're consistently going to the back, say you've just started your baby blanket pattern and you're doing a whole baby blanket in the boblet stitch and you notice they're always pushing to the back, then you could just kind of roll with it because it doesn't matter what side is the right side and wrong side. Just push them back. Mine aren't doing that though, so I'm wondering if they would stay going to the back. Even if I try pushing mine to the back, it's not. Well, no, yeah, I think so. Let me know, Laura, how it goes. If you notice that they're consistently going to the back, because then maybe that's an option for folks if they're also noticing the same thing. Just go with it. It's only important if, say this was the pattern we were doing and we were like alternating these bar stitches for a while and then switching to the bobbles and then bar, etc. Then you'd want to have everything. You'd want to make sure everything's on the right side of the work. Right, so yeah, I'm gonna put this one down now and we're gonna go to the honeycomb stitch. The honeycomb stitch takes a little longer. Well, it's also a 4-row repeat, but it's a little, just like a pinch more advanced. And so I want to make sure we have time for it. So here I had worked up just a little swatch. This is just 2 rows of single crochet, 12 stitches across like we'd been doing. But what I wanted to do in having this row ready to go, in addition to just saving time, is showing us working into the first row, we're going to be doing spike stitches into the foundation chain. And so what that means, so working a spike stitch, if you've never worked a spike stitch before, spike stitch just means instead of working under the top of your chain like you normally would, you are working underneath a stitch. So like right here, for example, or in the case of this pattern, you're working under 2 stitches. You're working your spike stitch 2 rows down to get a nice tall one. Some patterns have spike stitches where you work like 3 or 4 rows down. And there are pretty graphics online. You can just search like crochet spike stitches and see the different effects depending on how far down you're working. So for the honeycomb stitch, you work 2 rows down. You work your spike stitches 2 rows down. And so instead of working in the top like you normally would, and instead of doing a spike stitch underneath your first single crochet, just under 1 row, we're going to go under 2 rows. And again, in the case of the first spike stitches of the pattern, that means we're working all the way into the turning chain. So insert your hook all the way down here. This is another reason I like working into the back bumps in that initially, because see the 2 loops right there? It's almost like I'm working into the top of a stitch, even though it's on the bottom of the turning chain. So highly recommend working into the back bumps when you're doing any starting chains. So I inserted my hook all the way down here, and I'm going to go back and pull up. I'm going to try to pull up the loop. I lost it. All right, insert the hook, pull up the loop. And okay, unlike the bar stitch, we had that discussion earlier about pulling up the loops to the height of the working row. You do want to pull up to the height of working row when you're doing spike stitches. Otherwise, your work is going to curl and like you're not going to be able to steam that out or block it out. So we have our spike stitch. Look how tall that is. It looks awesome. Okay, your spike stitch, yarn over and pull through. And that is your first stitch of the row. And if this, you might want to kind of separate the little legs a little bit so you can really see that V easily. That'll be helpful later. Also, I should say this is going to be the wrong side of the work, and you'll see why in the next row. So we spike stitch in the very first stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. The height difference of those 2 stitches side by side. Spike stitches look really cool. They're very interesting with like a color changing yarn as well. So spike into the first stitch, single crochet into the next. We're going to spike into the next stitch, which means we're skipping this guy and working into, again, this turning chain, or not turning chain, just chain here. So insert all the way, pull up that loop from the back there, and pull it up to the height of your work, yarn over, and pull through. Again, you might want to just separate out those stitches a bit so you can see them really easily. All right, single crochet in the next stitch. Spike in the next stitch. Again, we're skipping this guy, working into this guy. And we're going to do that all the way across. The last stitch of the row is going to be a single crochet. So unlike the other 2 stitches, we are not framing out the honeycomb stitch with single crochets. Like there's not a single crochet at the start of every row and at the end of every row. We are starting, in the case, this is row 3 of the pattern, because your first 2 rows are single crochet. We're starting row 3 with a spike stitch right away. So similarities between the stitches. They're all based in single crochet, for example. That's why I liked how they all looked together. but then there's some differences. All right, we've got 2 stitches left, so I'm just going to do a spike stitch and crochet. Lay it out. You can see side by side we've got those taller legs for the spike stitches, and then the shorter regular single crochets, spacing them out. Valerie's asking, the spike stitch, is it going through the beginning chain stitch front or back of original chains? So I worked under 2 loops of my chains and literally insert all the way through and pull the yarn from the back of your work forward. So I'll show this last one again here. So I'm inserting into this second stitch from the end here. So I've got 2 loops there, and then going front to back, grabbing that yarn from the back and pulling it all the way up. Right. Good question. Okay, of the 3 stitches shown, which uses the least amount of yarn? So the honeycomb uses the most yarn. I'll start there. And then the bar stitch uses kind of the middle amount of yarn. The boblet stitch uses the least amount of yarn. Good question. Very good. All right, so for the next row, chain 1 and turn. You can see the V's pretty clearly on this side. If yours look kind of like scrunched or almost like they're like flipped over each other, you might just have to do a little shift them around, because it'll be important to see the nice V's as we start the honeycomb pattern. So here is where the magic happens. Single crochet in the first stitch. Crochet in this next stitch right in the middle of the V's. Then we're going to be pulling the legs of the spike stitches together to spread them out so that you get that pretty honeycomb effect. And to do that, we're not working into the top of a stitch. Instead, we're going to work under the leg of a spike stitch. And we're going to grab the next 2. So I'll show here, we just worked into the middle of this V. Now we're going to grab the next 2 stitches, the next 2 legs that you can, and we're going to pull them together. So insert your hook under those, yarn over, pull up a loop. So we just pulled those guys together, yarn over, and complete your stitch. So it's actually a single crochet stitch, but you're working into these bars instead of into the top of a single crochet. So pretty cool. We'll do that several more times. So we're not working into the top of the stitch right here that we had just done our, I don't even know what you would call this, this is pulling these spiky stitches together. We're not going to work into the top of that stitch. We worked in front of it. So we're going to work in the middle of the V and just do a single crochet. Next, we're pulling together these spike stitches again. So you're working basically in the middle of V's, you're doing an ordinary single crochet. And then we're pulling the legs of the spike stitches together. Yeah, that single crochet. Okay, so you can see we're almost giving them like a little hat. Got like a little triangle with a hat on it. All right. Single crochet in the next stitch. Pull those spike stitch legs together and complete that single crochet. Single crochet between that V, just in the regular top of the stitch from the row before. Pull these legs together. Crochet in the next stitch. And then the one on the edge is sometimes kind of funky to get into, but you're going to grab that. Work into that stitch. And then to end the row, we're doing a single crochet. Kind of in between that half of V right here. All right, let's take a look. Oh, how cool is that? So you can see we've pulled the stitches apart to get that great texture. It looks even better after we do another couple rows to really get that kind of another like diamond effect. We got a diamond effect offsetting boblets with the last stitch. And with this one, we're getting a diamond effect through these spikes. Very good. Yes, good point. Yes, Laura's saying working on the same sample. Now these stitches are on the back of the swatch. So hopefully, that's okay. This is just a swatch. If you're using like a cotton yarn and want to turn it into a dishcloth, that would be fun. Or like a little coaster or something. But yeah, I guess I should have mentioned that maybe I should have had you guys do 3 rounds of single crochet to have all of your stitches on the front there. All right, awesome. Okay, so for the next row, the pattern is basically repeating the 2 rows that we did, but we have to offset the stitches to get the diamonds, the look of the diamonds, the honeycomb look. So because we did a spike stitch in the first stitch last time, we're gonna just do a single crochet on top of that stitch this time. That tip helps you memorize. Like you're working on the wrong side of the work, you're working single crochets on top of spike stitches and spike stitches on top of single crochets. So remember, we're working 2 rows back every time we do a spike stitch. So we're not working like right here. That's only 1 row back. We're actually working, if you kind of pull apart your stitches, it's almost like a circle here. It's 2 rows down, and the way the stitches land, it's almost like put the hook here. It's easier to see than you'd think. That's where we're going to work. So your next spike stitch goes in between all of that. And a very important note, when you go through the other side, make sure your hook comes out in between the top of the stitches we'd pulled together in the last round. That's the whole way you get the nice effect, is if your hook comes out right there. It's also a nice way to spot check that you're working into the correct stitch. So for example, if you tried working like right here and you're like, there's resistance, it's because you're trying to work right into this knot. But if you insert your hook and it comes out in the middle of those stitches or near the middle of the stitches, maybe you slip and the hook comes out over here, so you just gotta finesse. But if their hook is in the middle of the stitches, you know you're in the right spot. So pull out the loop from the back there, pull it up to the working row's height, yarn over, and complete that spike stitch. See here, we're offsetting the spikes. Next stitch, we're working a single crochet above the spike stitch from 2 rows back. And now here's that little kind of hole, that little circle where we're going to insert the hook, pull the yarn from the back and lift up that loop. The working row's height. And yarn over and pull through 2. All right, single crochet in the next stitch. Spike stitch. When I work this stitch, I am almost constantly turning my work towards me when I work the wrong side rows to make sure I am coming out in the middle of that V so that I don't have to rip back if I missed. All right, insert your hook 2 rows back, make sure it comes out between the V, pull up your loop, and complete that single crochet. So it's a single crochet spike stitch. It's a single crochet stitch. Everything we are doing for the honeycomb stitch is a single crochet stitch. It's just where you place the stitches that gives you this cool effect. All right, we're inserting the hook right here. See, I didn't come out between the V's, so I need to readjust. Pull up the loop. Crochet in that stitch. And because we started this row with a single crochet, we're ending it with a spike stitch. It's a little tricky sometimes to see where that last one goes because you're not going to be coming up between a V. But if you can see right here, here's like row 1, here's row 2, the second row where we're working back, and it's the same depth of the stitch next to it. So here's that little spot right there where we're going to work. And we're going to insert, pull up the loop. Try to keep it on this side of the work so it doesn't, flop to the other side. It's a little tricky at the end of the row. And yarn over and pull through. Chain 1 and turn. So here you can see this row is our spike stitches before we've pulled them together. So if you are working up, say you're going to make up a scarf pattern using this stitch, you want to end on a right side row so the stitches look the nicest. All right, I've got 11:55 on my clock, so we're going to finish this row, and then if there are any additional questions, we can discuss those, and then I'll let you guys on your way. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So, all right, so remember, we're always doing on this side the single crochet stitches between the V's. So we just do 1 single crochet, and now we need to pull these 2 legs together. So insert your hook beneath those and a single crochet. Ordinary single crochet right there. Insert your hook, pull them together. Single crochet across. Of the 3 stitches we've done today, this one is a little trickier to memorize because it's not flanked with single crochet stitches like the other 2. But if you can just remember, okay, on this side, I'm always doing a regular single crochet stitch between the V's and then pulling them together. Those are your signals that like, okay, I only started with 1 single crochet stitch here because then I had to pull these legs together. Whereas in this other row, we had 2 single crochet stitches before we had to pull the legs of the spike stitch together. I hope some of those tips are helpful for memorizing. So like here, this is the last leg. We're not attaching it to anything. So I know I'm ending this row with 2 single crochets. I just think this is one of the prettiest stitches. It's one of my favorites. This and cables. I'm a big fan of crochet cables. That's been my latest obsession. So I hope you guys are enjoying. I hope it's helpful to hear that yeah, they're just single crochets. They're just single crochets, just put in interesting spots. And then to finish us off, I just want to show you. I'm doing a temperature blanket this year. If you guys aren't familiar with temperature blankets, you have color ranges for each high or low or both temperature in your area. And depending on what the temperature was that day, you crochet in that color. So you get this interesting, eclectic striped pattern. And you do it for a year. So I'm making a temperature baby blanket with this stitch. I realized this stitch it's actually very short. It's deceptive because of these long spikes, but the honeycomb stitch is very short. So it's a good fit for a temperature blanket where you are working up 365 or 366 rows, depending on the year. So I'll try to hold this up. My camera looks a little blurry to me right now. I apologize for that. But changing colors in this stitch, I think it just looks so cool with the overlapping spike stitches. And so if you are interested in doing a really long-term project using the honeycomb stitch, you can make a temperature blanket. All right, thank you everybody for the sweet words. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for attending today's class here. I'll spotlight my own face so I can talk to you guys. All right, thank you so much for attending today's class. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions about anything, you can always email me. Actually, I'll do a screen share. I've got a little end slide for the slideshow. Okay. Well, you guys can see the slide there. So you can email me directly. It's dneald@primecp.com, or you can message me on my blog if you want. My personal blog is dananeald.com. Anything where you're reaching out to Fave Crafts, though, will get to me as well. So just let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much. I've seen so many familiar faces in the chat, and I just love seeing familiar faces, and I'm so grateful. Yay. Okay. I'm just checking real quick to see if there were any more questions before I let you all go. Yeah, I've got noon on the button on my clock. Okay, all right, no more questions. Answer any questions. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you again so much, and I look forward to that recording, and hopefully I'll see you guys again in future classes. All right, have a good one.